Hi, today I'm joined by Omar from the Konse Podcast. We are talking all things acts of service, Rotary, love languages, friendships. I'm super excited. Enjoy.
We all have emotions and think about things. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Hi, welcome to Emotional and Mental Justice. I'm Una and welcome to my podcast. Today I have an inspirational young man named Omar. And hi, Omar. Thanks for being here. Yay!
Hi, Una. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Good,
And
good, good.
hello to all the listeners and viewers.
Okay, so yes, I'm really excited to have you here. So I'm just going to say a little bit about you and what you do, but I'm going to ask you, obviously, after that to tell me more about you because no one knows you better than you know yourself. Omar and I have just recently met. It's a newfound friendship. We've met off the Zambian Podcasters Hub. I think you were in that before me. Tell me a bit about that.
Yes. It's so interesting, right? Because I only got to know about the Zambian Podcasters Hub about I think about a week ago. So what happened was a friend and very inspirational friend of mine who's also a podcaster, her name is Olivia. She posted the group on her WhatsApp status, and I saw it and I was like, there's actually a group? So I told her that and she read it again and I was like, you know what? Let me join the group. And it was so amazing to see that there are so many Zambian podcasters
I know,
both
right?
in the diaspora as well as in Zambia, because I'm gonna be honest, I only thought there were at the very least 10 podcasters in Zambia. And to see that there are over 50, it's such a shocking thing. So
There's a whole community that we
the
didn't
group
know
had
of.
been, so before I had joined, the group had been only around for about 2 weeks. So basically it's still in its infancy, and basically what it is it's a community of all the Zambian podcasters, both outside Zambia and in Zambia, coming together to network and basically grow the podcast community in Zambia. So
Yes,
it's
and
pretty exciting.
yeah, and I'm so proud to be a part of that. I'm putting you to it as well. Obviously, my friend from Africana Woman, Chulu Chancer, posted that, and I saw it. I was like, hey, just this exciting stuff, isn't it? So excited to be here. Okay, so Omar is a photographer, podcaster, a writer, actor, and enthusiast for talent. Tell me a little bit about those things. What gives you that passion to have these things?
So I'm gonna follow them in the same order that you mentioned it. So yeah, I'm a photographer. I am a podcaster, Rotary actor, and enthusiast for talent. For the photography part, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like the photography is part passion, part inherent,
Hmm.
because there's so many people in my family who enjoy photography. My cousin, my dad. Actually, the camera that I use now is a hand-me-down from my dad, and I'm so grateful for that. So,
Oh, nice.
the passion, I would say I've always had a natural gravitation towards artistry and things that are aesthetically pleasing. And
Mm.
so using a camera or taking photos was something that kind of came natural to me. And I enjoyed having that creative eye. And every time I saw something creative, I was inspired to recreate it or do something better. And then I ended up creating this philosophy of mine called saying that creativity is everywhere, because a lot of the photos that I used to take, especially in the early days, were very creative and they were very easy to do. And so because of that, it made me realize that, hey, most, if not everything that we have around us was because of a creative mind.
Mm.
And so creativity literally is everywhere. You don't need money, you don't need the highest end camera. I started my photography with a phone, cliche as it sounds. And every time I
Yeah.
tell this story, I always go, it's so cliche because you have all these motivational speakers talking about how they started so little and made it big.
I was saying all you need is a camera, right? Photography is about cameras. A phone has a camera, so hey, If you have a passion,
Exactly.
yeah.
So eventually, only until I started seeing the successes of my photography did I get to realize that it's actually true. And the thing about it is that the environment will never be perfect for you to start. So whatever passion it is that you have, at the end of the day, if you really want the zeal to do it, just do it. Because I'll tell you what, I believe that the hardest part of any activity or process that you go through, the hardest part is starting. Everything else that follows is just a contributing factor to the success of whatever that you're doing. At least that's what I believe. So yeah, that's on the photography.
That's great. And then next we had podcasting. Obviously, I think towards the end we're going to talk about where people can find you, where we can find your podcast. Yep. I'll also put a link at the end of that. What is the name of your podcast?
So the name of my podcast is called the Konse Podcast.
Okay, that's great.
That's also the name of my photography.
Oh, amazing. So we'll link everything there. So if people want to find you, they can find you there. Yeah. And so the next thing, as you wanted to go in order, was Rotaractor.
Yes. So about Rotary, and I think this is where I might probably take my most time. So Rotary, for those of you that may not know, Rotary is a international organization that does humanitarian works and charity all over the world. So we do this while also promoting goodwill and better friendships all over the world, and promoting integrity as well. So think of it in the same acts of service as clubs like Lions Club, Amnesty International, Red Cross. It's basically in the same niche. And so Rotary has been around for a good while. This year we turned 117 years old.
Wow.
And yeah, so it was founded by a man named Paul Harris back long before any of us were alive. So, and over the years, they've really been significant in changing the world in so many ways. And you know what's funny, right? Is that there's oftentimes this common misconception that Rotary are quote unquote elite, and I agree over the years. And I'm talking about people who in their nature are actually just natural born philanthropists. People like Margaret Thatcher was once a Rotarian. Kenneth Kaunda, for those of you who are Zambian, was a Rotarian. The popes were Rotarians, JFK, on and on. But that's just to give you a bit of the status of Rotary. In terms of magnitude, we are spread over 150 countries in all the continents in the world, and we have over 3,500 districts with over, I believe, 100,000 clubs worldwide, with over 1.5 million members. And so in each district, there's a select group of countries that form a district, and in each of those countries, there are Rotary. So I'm in Zambia, and in Zambia is a member of one district called District 9210. So District 9210 comprises of Zambia, Northern Mozambique, Malawi, and Zimbabwe. Originally, at first, we also had South Africa and all the other countries in the southern region, but they ended up forming their own district, and so on and so forth. So there's so many districts across Africa, across Asia, Europe, and America, and so on and so forth. So that's just to give you a bit of the idea of how Rotary is spread and how old it is, and the brief history of Rotary. Now, so in Rotary, there are two types of membership currently. Only recently did it actually be enacted. Ideally, at first it was separated. So there are two types of membership. One can either be a Rotarian or a Rotaractor. So Rotarians are the main members, and Rotarians are basically, any member of the community can be a Rotarian, and Rotaractors as well. Rotaractors are much younger. It's actually an acronym for Rotarians in Action. So majority of people who are Rotaractors are on the younger side, and do a lot more activities like feeding orphanages or donations or tree planting and so on and so forth.
Okay, so there's quite a lot of work that goes into.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Rotarians do a much, for lack of a better way to say it, larger scale projects like road construction, building a school, renovations, and so on and so forth. And so because of that, Rotaractors have more programs in a Rotary year than Rotarians because of the scale of the magnitude of said projects. So a Rotaractor is a member of a Rotaract club. A Rotarian is a member of a Rotary club. So that's the distinction between the two.
Okay, so when we spoke, sorry to interrupt you, when we spoke, I asked you about what you're passionate about. And you said you're passionate about acts of service. So obviously within the whole Rotary and being a Rotarian or Rotaractor, you're obviously passionate about some stuff that you've done. Can you talk us through maybe a project or something you've done within the Rotary that you're either passionate about or would like to just share so we get more of an understanding of what you've done?
Yeah. Oh, there's a plethora of them. And to be honest, I genuinely could spend the whole day talking about Rotary alone, other than any of my other passions. But so regarding some of the stuff that we've done or I've participated in as a Rotaractor, I recently did voluntary work with an NGO that was founded by Rotary, but is a separate NGO on its own, standalone on its own, and the name of the NGO is called Malaria Partners International. So there's Malaria Partners Zambia, which is in Zambia, and there's Malaria Partners of Tanzania, which is in Tanzania, and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Just to point out, with malaria, it's quite big in Zambia, and I think it's been 4 years, hasn't it? And obviously. Yeah. So that's a good cause for anyone to get into. Sorry, tell me more.
So, and actually, before I even get to that, Rotary International was very significant has been really hands-on in the elimination of polio. And polio is almost finished in Africa. We decided to start a new project centered around which is something that is definitely on. And is set to at least our target. We're set to meet all our targets at least by 2026. Okay. And so Malaria Partners Zambia is an NGO that was founded whose duties solely gravitate around the elimination of malaria sensitization, and so on and so forth. So there's a lovely friend of mine who is the projects manager for Malaria Partners Zambia. His name is Eric. Very, very lovely person. He's a Rotaractor as well as a Rotarian. He can actually be a dual member. He's the one who invited me along with other fellow Rotaractors to just do some voluntary work, go into the fields, which is like go into some of these rural areas where malaria is rampant, do some malaria training as well, and just better sensitization on said disease. So I got to do the field work, which is going to the rural areas, meet the different people, register them as community health workers, or rather people who could help, with the fight of malaria. Because it's not just a matter of an NGO coming to donate everything they need. The people in the community also need to have a hands-on experience and learn how to take care of themselves, so that you don't have a situation where if someone is sick with malaria, you don't have to stress about taking them to the hospital, because some of these rural areas are places where the nearest health center could be 4 or 5 kilometers away. And the person is really, really sick. So it's important for members of that community to have hands-on knowledge of what to do in case a member is sick.
So let's just talk about let's just talk about malaria for a second. Obviously, malaria is to you and I as Zambians, it's just a normal everyday word because it's used daily. because that's,
That
we
we're
know
so
malaria.
used to it. It's been there for a while.
Yeah, exactly. So, but for people across the globe, some may not even have come across malaria or really know what it is and how it affects people. And, you know, all they know is if you're going to a certain country, like our country, you need to take malaria tablets, or you need to, but don't really know the depths of it. What is malaria and how does it affect people?
Okay. So malaria is basically a disease caused by, I hope I remember my primary school knowledge of the disease, because that would take me back all the way to to high school. But malaria is basically a disease that is caused by mosquito, female, I don't know the other word for it, but it's a female mosquito. And so the mosquito has a parasite in it that if you have it in your body, you get sick of malaria. Some of the symptoms are diarrhea, nausea, fever, high temperature, and so on and so forth. I actually once had malaria 3 times consecutively in I think about 3 months when I was 12.
And it's quite, it's
Not
a
a pretty
deadly, it's a deadly
experience.
disease, a deadly sickness.
It's not a disease that you have to underrate. There's so many different variants of malaria as well. There's meningitis, there's all these other different diseases, and we've lost a few cousins as well to malaria. So it's a very, very deadly disease if not taken care of properly. And so, yeah, the main cause of malaria really is mosquitoes. And, you know, I feel like I've given such a light explanation of it.
No,
This
that's
should be a little
what it
embarrassing
is.
seeing that my dad is a doctor. But anyway,
Well, your
that's
dad is
pretty
going to be
much
having words. No, I'm joking. That's a perfectly good and simple explanation. I mean, we don't need a doctor version of what malaria is. It's simply, you know, to do with mosquitoes. So, yeah, thank you.
Yes. So yeah, that's pretty much what malaria is about. And like you highlighted, for you and me who are Zambians, it's something that we know all too well because it's been around for such a very long time. And even in other countries, it's extremely rampant. It's rampant in tropical areas in Africa because that's where you find most mosquitoes and so on and so forth. So some of the preventive measures to take care of malaria is, for those of you that don't know, is obviously buying mosquito nets, having some repellent handy once in a while is pretty good as well. Making sure all the rooms are sprayed, windows are closed during the later during the day, because the mosquitoes usually come out to play at night. And
they are
just
buggers at night. I mean, sorry, I'm just sorry to interrupt you. They are buggers at night. I mean, I just came from Zambia. I was in Zambia. When was I there? 2 months ago.
Anyone who knows and has lived in Zambia knows the struggle of sleeping at night when it's cold.
And when you've been bitten, it's the itching, the scratching.
It's such an irritating sound. You'd be sleeping, having peaceful sleep, and having the little bugger come to you, making that light sound.
And wait, you know what else is annoying? Wait, you know what else is annoying? What else is annoying is you can't use your phone at night. I mean, I was trying to use my phone under the covers because they follow the light, right? So I was under the covers going, at least I'm hiding, but the slight light above the duvet or whatever, it just comes and it's and then the itching and the scratching once you've been bitten, those little buggers.
It's such a struggle. Any Zambian who's had an experience with malaria or at least a mosquito knows the struggle. They know the struggle.
Yeah. Okay. So that's some of the ways to prevent it, to take care of it. Of course, there's also malaria tablets if you're going to a malaria-prone area. I want to talk about your acts of service. Acts of service is quite a kind thing to do. Well, it's a very kind thing to do, whether it's within the Rotary as you do it, or whether it's just for somebody or a family member, a partner, or whatever. What does acts of service mean to you?
Acts of service to me is I feel like that means love, because I feel like I've grown up with the definition of, everyone has different definitions of love, and all of them, to be honest, are really correct dependent on the upbringing that you have. For me, I feel like love is a selfless service, and I call it a selfless service because I think the purest form of love you can ever give someone is doing something for them without the expectation of receiving the same act back, which is very, very hard when you think about it. Because naturally, as human beings, we are wired to expect something in return for something that we have done. we just sometimes it's even when you do something, there's always just going to be that one thing in your head that goes, I'm expecting at least something from this person for what I did,
Even if that
not
something is a
maybe not
thank
even from
you.
that person, but exactly. Maybe sometimes it's not even that. Maybe like for those of you that believe in karma, you're expecting it to come back around in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But I feel like the purest form of love is when that thought and that idea of expecting something in return completely doesn't come to mind,
It's wiped out,
And
eradicated. Yeah.
you know, growing up in Rotary and just in my family in general, that's an act of love that I've seen time and time again from my grandmothers. I never got to meet my grandfathers because they all died before I was born, but from my grandmothers, my parents, my cousins, everywhere I've grown up in, this is a type of love that I've experienced, the type of love that I've grown under, that I've kind of had now that I'll tell you I'll tell you what. Both my
Mhm.
parents are Rotarians and I've grown up in Rotary from as far back as I was in diapers. I've seen what they do and everything. And as well as just my parents in general, I've seen how they help people, which is such an inspiring thing to see. My
Yeah.
grandmother, my mom used to tell me stories about how her mother, my grandmother, who is late, would be so selfless to a point where, like, in the village, there were people who are, for lack of a better way to say it, not okay upstairs, who had some mental health issues and so on and so forth. And she was such a welcoming human being. Every time they would come through asking for food, my grandmother would make sure that they've eaten, and regardless of where they're coming from, even if they're homeless, she would make sure that they're eating. And she's a person who wouldn't go to bed until everyone in the house is eaten. And so for me, really just growing up in general, having grown up in such an environment where the biggest definition of love that I've seen is these constant acts of selfless service and doing something for someone without expecting anything in return.
Yeah.
I feel like for me is the highest definition of love.
Absolutely. And you
So
were saying as
that's the
well
biggest
that,
definition of love.
yeah, sorry, you were saying that um, you've grown up in this and it's giving without receiving, but you also mentioned that sometimes we can't, if you believe in karma or whatever else, it's supposed to come back round to you, or you think it will. And that's, like you said, it's normal, it's human nature. But so for someone like you, for example, you've been raised in that and you've been conditioned to kind of give and not expect to receive. But it's a very difficult thing, we have to acknowledge, to just be so open. And it's something I feel like people need to work on, just giving and letting go, because this is where it eliminates disappointment, or at least minimizes disappointment in the future and things like that. So yeah, that's just an important part of our lives that we all, I think, need to work on to a degree.
Definitely, that's so true. Because honestly, I feel like everyone just grown to feel a certain level of satisfaction having. I feel like for me, the satisfaction of seeing someone happy because of something that I did for them is more than enough.
Yeah.
I feel like it just makes me so happy having done something for someone and having at least made their life better because of something that I did. I feel like that's really, honestly, if there's an expectation, that's the only expectation I have anyway. Uh, the theme for our last Rotary year was serve to change lives.
Okay.
And basically, that was what all our acts and projects were around. Basically, whatever we do, make sure at least it changes at least one life.
Yeah.
And at least I can proudly say that I feel like I've done my part, and I'm so excited for the next Rotary year, which actually starts today.
Oh, does
The
it?
theme is Imagine Rotary, and we're excited to see where that leads us. In general, the motto of Rotary as a whole is service above self. And I feel like for me, that's also just become a life motto for me as well.
Mm.
It's just every service that you do, it should be above yourself anyway. Like,
Yeah.
that's the whole reason that we're doing it. So, and coming back to the whole idea of love being a selfless service, I'll even back it up biblically. When you look at all the depictions of love in the Bible through all the timelines, you'll notice that the common denominator there is that love was always expressed by way of service. especially by Jesus.
Yeah.
Almost every instance where Jesus did something was an act of service without expecting anything in return, including giving himself to die for us. That's a level of love that only he achieved. Because
Excuse me. Yeah.
I'll tell you now, selfless as you can be right now, honestly, if you're being really honest with yourself, I'm pretty sure you can count the number of people in your life that you would give your life up for. It would definitely not be everyone, you know. But Jesus gave his life for every single one of us.
That's a
That's
major,
a type
major
of
act of service that not many people would
that's a
even
type
give
of
up
selflessness
much for
not
their loved
everyone
ones.
can do, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really just about love in general.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I was just laughing at the thing of how many people would you give your life up for, and yeah, there's not many people that
I know
people would
for sure
even
that for
give.
me, I know for me for sure there's a list.
Yeah. Okay. So do you know about the love languages?
You know, it's funny you say that because that's actually the book that I've been reading.
Okay. Okay.
I
Interesting.
only started I only started reading it like 2 days ago. A very good
All
friend of
right.
mine,
See,
she's
we're
such an
in sync.
amazing
We're in
friend.
sync
She
here
sent it
somewhere.
to me. You know, God had a plan. God definitely had a plan.
Yeah, so I did a podcast I think about a year ago or so on love languages. I'll send that to you. I'll send you the link. But I just think with love languages, obviously, it very much comes into acts of service because that's one of the love languages. And
Yes,
I feel like it's important to give in a way that somebody is receiving. So that's
yeah,
it quite explains it within the podcast. I guess with Rotary, you know the need. You know that this is the reason that why we need to be here, and this is the need. But I'm going to take it away from your work and going to your personal relationships, for example. How do you make sure that the acts you're servicing to others are not just because you feel like, I want to give this full stop, because really that can come into not really servicing people. Does that make sense? So you're giving
yeah,
somebody but they're not
that makes
actually
sense.
receiving it. How do you ensure in your life that you're giving in such a way?
Hmm. I think um, I'm gonna use Will Smith once said that if you really want to love someone, it should be from a point of view where you want to see them grow. And so he used like a gardener type of illustration where if I'm a gardener and I want to plant roses, I'm going to make sure that I plant roses the way roses need to be planted. And if it's daffodils, plant them, raise them how they need to be raised. So I guess for me, it's a situation of I have so many really amazing friends, and I'm so grateful for the friends that I've had. And they've all contributed to my life being the way it is. And so for me, as an act of it comes really from an act of gratitude for the roles that they've played in my life, to be honest, because I wouldn't be the person that I am today. I wouldn't have learned the morals that I've learned today without my friends' input in them. And I definitely believe that every single person that comes into your life will come into your life as one of two things. They'll either come into your life as a blessing or they'll come into your life as a lesson. Either
Mm,
way, whichever one it is, they'll always come into your life as a way to make you grow.
mm-hmm.
So whether they're bad friends, whether they're good friends, they're in your life to help you grow, and it's up to you as an individual to see that they're there to help you grow. And that's why we always get to meet different people in each of the chapters of our lives. The friends that I've met now are definitely not the friends that I had 10, 15 years ago,
Yeah.
but the energy that they have is the same energy that my old friends had. And so for me, it's really comes from a place of gratitude, and to ensure that that gratitude is has a long lifespan. I always want to do something for my friends that will allow them to grow as well.
That's a very
So
that's a very
through Rotaract, so through Rotaract, I've allowed my friend. I've also invited my friends to be part of Rotary, and it's amazing because I'll tell you, I feel like I'm gonna call this a testimony
yeah.
to how much I love to help my friends grow. So about 2 years ago, I joined Rotaract in 2020. So in 2020, I was the only one amongst my friends who had been a Rotaractor. And I'd been, and I'm still, and just as I am passionate about it now, I was passionate about it then. I was marketing it, the brand, and everything. So my friends, two of my friends, ended up joining Rotary last year. I think they were inducted last year, if I'm not mistaken. And the enthusiasm they brought to the club was such an amazing thing for me, because it made me feel so much pride and joy to say that my friends are also equally passionate about this, and I'm grateful that I was able to be used as a bridge to allow them to be part of this community. I was head of public relations back then. I'm outgoing now. Actually, as of today, I've actually completely outgone being head of public relations. Those two friends I talk about now are actually members of the incoming board in this Rotaract year.
That's amazing.
All in the space of 1 year. And for me, that really brings out such joy and fulfillment to say that I'm glad that I've been able to contribute that to their lives, because they've already seen what Rotary does for them. And it gives me so much joy, to be honest.
Oh, that's amazing. So that's the good work you're doing, and not just bringing people in, as in, oh, just come in and see what I'm doing, but you're actually making them understand and believe in the cause, and getting them to that place where they're even wanting to be on the boards and things like that. That's amazing. Really amazing stuff. But I like the answer that you gave about, the Will Smith example, and then you gave the example of a rose growing. And that is about intuition as well, making sure that you're paying attention to what people need and what people want, even in your personal life outside of your work. But I want to ask you as well, how do people give you acts of service, and how do you receive acts of service? You've touched upon how your friends have been great to you, but in general, what makes Omar happy when you receive acts of service?
Oh goodness, I feel like, it's funny, I feel like what makes that an interesting question is because I've never really thought about it.
Okay.
And so I have to actually think about this. I think my friends have displayed acts of service in very, very unique ways. I think for me, a lot of my friends have contributed acts of service to me by, I think some of them by allowing me to just be a part of their lives and share the memories that we share. I feel like that's something that I don't take for granted, to be honest. A lot of the friendships that I have, I've been able to create amazing memories that, to be honest, I feel like for me is a service on its own. If you're able to be such an impact in someone's life where they become a long-lasting memory, I think for me that's service enough, and it's really, really amazing. Some of them have contributed academically. A lot of them have pushed me to be to do better in my academics. Others have helped me financially, literally teaching me financial literacy and stuff like that, which, to be honest, I'm kind of still learning, but we're all still learning how to be
absolutely
financially literate. But I would say it's in different ways. A lot of my friends are very, very selfless in the way have been very, very selfless in the way that they've contributed to my life. Some have been there extremely emotionally supportive. I think that would be the major one, to be honest. A lot of the friends that I have been extremely emotionally supportive, and that's I'm extremely grateful for.
So you truly value friendships. So friendships give you that fulfillment, that happiness.
Friendship is everything.
Is everything, yeah. Okay, yeah, so I absolutely love the fact that you just appreciate friendship, but I feel like that's also quite a humble answer. It's a good one, it's a real one, and I like that. But come on now, what do you like, Omar? For me, I like, for example, obviously the friendship things are nice, they're sweet, they're real, it's what makes us happy, But for me, an act of service, buy me a bottle of Baileys, I'll be happy. Buy me a box of chocolates, I'll be happy. Wow. Let's hang out. For me, my love language is very much quality time. acts of service and quality time. So quality time, I guess, comes into friendship.
We're actually the same with that one, because for me as well, I feel like my primary love language is quality time. I really enjoy quality time because it creates the opportunity to create so many blissful memories, and I feel like memories are generally the best gift you can ever give anyone. So yeah, and then acts of service as well.
Yeah, that's my secondary and my primary. I feel like with those two, not the second one. Let's say with the first one, the primary one, quality time. That feeds into everything else. It feeds into, if you're spending quality time, you're servicing each other. You're doing it fits into every love language. So to be honest, I think this whole love language thing should have an umbrella of quality time first.
It should be the overall definitive factor, you know.
Yeah. So come on,
even when you think of the other stuff like words of affirmation, you have to be with that person to give them those words of affirmation.
And you can't give words of affirmation having not known that person well enough, or well, you can, but you kind of have to have an intuition, but that comes from spending time with them, quality time.
There you go. Bob's your uncle.
Exactly, we're on the same page here. So answer my question. What do you like? What acts of service just make you go, yay?
Oh my goodness, you really want to put me on the spot here, don't you? Here's my honest answer with that. The reason why I was giving those answers wasn't even just for the sake of being modest, but also because okay, let me be very real. Since you want me to be very real, if you want to make Oma happy through act of service, buy him a PlayStation 5. That's the first
Okay. Okay, PlayStation 5. There we go.
I know that's only because I'm a video game addict. I love video games. I love photography. So if you want to make me happy, even buying me a camera, or even just offering to tag along with me for going for a photo shoot, or even offering yourself up for a photo shoot, that makes me really happy. Going for a good movie makes me happy. Food. I love food.
Food. Food makes us all happy. Food makes us so happy.
Oh, food makes me very, very happy. Yeah, food, and just because I'm one person who's grateful for anything, to be honest. The fact that you even thought of gifting me something is big for me. So I'm not really I wouldn't say I have specific things that I like, to which if people took recognition for that and wanted to do them for me, that would be really cool. But as like having a specific thing that I would want done for me, I mean, I guess you can do pretty much anything you want for me, to be honest. It's really just you.
And I think, like you said, it's somebody knowing. Yeah, and like you said, it's somebody knowing what you like, and then acknowledging that just makes it special, and saying, oh, this one likes a lollipop, let me buy her a lollipop. There we go. Okay, so Omar, I mean, it's been insightful. It's been a pleasure talking to you and just learning about you and learning more about Rotary, because I knew of it but didn't know too much about what goes on behind the scenes and things like that. So it's really a pleasure. So where can we find what you do?
I have so much fun. I really wish we could go on longer, because this is the thing about Bemba people. Bemba people talk too much. For those of you that don't know, I'm Bemba. 100% Bemba, so I talk a lot. So I could go on for hours.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I'm a talker as well, to be honest. I can talk and talk and talk. But we've got time. We can do this again. We've got, it's just the beginning, isn't it? Just the beginning.
You have to come on my show as well.
I would love to. Let's make that happen. I would absolutely love to do that. So I'm passionate about mental health, so I'll probably come to you and talk to you for hours about mental health. Yeah. So where can people find you? What are your social media sites and things like that?
Okay, so currently I am on Facebook, Instagram, and I only recently opened my Twitter account. So on Instagram, it's k.oma_. On Facebook, it's Kalma. Those are my full names. And on Twitter, it should be koma25. So those are my social media handles for my private accounts if you want to reach out to me privately. But the accounts, so my podcast is called the Konse Podcast, and my photography is called Konse Photography. and they're both using one account on Instagram called Konse Productions.
Okay.
And then on Facebook, it's just called Konse Photography. So you can reach me on
Okay.
any of those platforms.
So Konse being Konse, Konse.
Yes.
What does
And
Konse mean?
the story behind that is so funny, eh?
Really? Okay, come on. Before we go, tell me the story behind that. And Konse, tell us what Konse means.
So, like I said, I'm Bemba, so I'm actually mispronouncing it, and my fellow Bembas are going to be on my throat about it. The actual pronunciation should be Konse.
Konse.
So
Oh,
what it means is
you're out here saying Konse, Konse.
it's in my way of speech, but anyway. So yeah, so Konse means everywhere in Bemba. And if you recall earlier in the interview, I talked about how I believe that creativity is everywhere. So the brand really encapsulates that everything that I do is really to be creative in everything that I set out to do. So that's why I call it Konse. And sorry, what was your other question?
What does Konse mean? But you were going to explain the story.
So how I ended up naming that, the funny thing is that I actually stole it from my mom's email account.
Okay.
Yeah.
From your mom's email account.
Privacy, yeah. I'm not gonna snitch her email because she's very adamant about privacy. So.
Oh yeah, of
but
course.
Just know I stole the name from her email account and then added meaning to it later on.
Wow. Okay, so it's
for copyrights for the name.
And you know what I was saying, she's your mom, so you're allowed to kind of take from her. And how did she take it that you took that from her?
She just laughed it off.
Yeah, that's quite nice, because then now you have your mom within your podcast, right?
Yeah, constant reminder.
There we go. Well, Omar, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I cannot wait to guest on your podcast.
We're definitely going to make it happen. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for allowing me to share all about me, what Rotary does, and malaria and everything. It's such an amazing feeling, and I'm so grateful. The important thing is to also spread awareness about some of these things that we have to face in society anyway. Malaria is such a huge thing that we need to deal with, and I'm very confident that by 2026, we'll have taken malaria down just the way we've taken polio down in Africa. So I'm so excited.
I love that. Malaria needs to just bugger off out of our lives, because it's
malaria and its mosquitoes.
Yeah, exactly. Omar, I was about to call you Konse. Omar, thank you so much. Take care.
All right, take care. Bye.
Omar,
let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.